Hi, I'm Dempsey Pulot, and this week I'm reviewing. Now before we start off, as always, I just want to take a quick second to remind you guys to make sure you hit that like button if you liked today's video, and if you're new here, please make sure to hit that subscribe button as well for more new movie-related content weekly. But without further ado, let's jump into today's film. Wrath of Man was directed by Guy Ritchie and stars Jason Statham as a career criminal who infiltrates an armored truck company in an attempt to get to the bottom of the death of his son, who was killed in an armed truck robbery gone wrong. Guy Ritchie is a filmmaker who I think always delivers. Yes, some of his films are better than others, but I don't think there's one of his projects that I could say that I just outright hate. In fact, his last film, The Gentleman, just so happened to be one of my favorite films of last year. And while I don't think this film is as good as The Gentleman was, I don't think it's bad either. I think it's actually pretty good. Now, don't get me wrong, this is your run-of-the-mill revenge thriller. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. Essentially, some horrific event happens. It's revealed that our main character has a connection to that event and is affected by it. And then we spend the film following him as he attempts to get revenge. But even though it isn't an entirely new concept, it still feels fresh, mostly due to the setting and the criminal underworld that the film establishes. Personally, the idea of armored trucks has always fascinated me. Essentially, you have these really big trucks driving around, filled with money, going to pick up more money. I mean, you're practically begging to be robbed at that point. And it especially baffles me how today, the 21st century, it's still such a popular practice considering that so much of the world's money is digital and, things like wire transfers exist now. I remember a little over a decade ago this film coming out called Armored, which revolved around this crew of armored truck drivers who try to do this inside job and steal from themselves. In some ways, Wrath of Man feels like a spiritual relative to that film. Here, not only do we get insight into how these trucks operate, but we also get to see the kinds of people that operate them, as well as the people who target them too. Make no mistake, nobody in this film is an angel. However, all of the characters are far from dull. Granted, there is a minor complaint I have that even though we have so many really interesting characters in this film, that not all of them get as much screen time as they should. But nevertheless, the people in this film are certainly interesting to watch, especially the people besides Jason Statham, because Jason Statham, if I'm being honest, is just in this film doing his regular routine, kicking butt, taking names, the usual. If you've seen one Jason Statham film, you've seen them all. But it's really the rest of the colorful characters that I found to carry this film. And like I said, I wish that some of them would have had a little bit more screen time, but nevertheless, whenever any of them are on screen, they're really fascinating to watch. In fact, even though I said this film is your average revenge thriller, it does make one surprisingly bold choice halfway through with the characters, and that is that it decides to switch the perspectives. So it goes from following Jason Statham's character to following the perpetrators of the heist that killed his son, and it even follows them as they plan their next heist too. So in addition to changing vantage points, the film also kind of changes genres halfway through. It becomes a bit of a heist film, but not for long, because it certainly does become thrilling to wait and watch how Jason Statham tries to foil that second heist. That, to me, was where a lot of the excitement in the film came from. But it isn't always that exciting. Told in 4 parts, the film starts off strong, but then lulls when it gets into Statham's reason for infiltrating the armored truck company. It also takes a weird, deep, and dark turn that, honestly, kind of feels a bit out of place and feels like a totally different movie altogether. And I get that that part of the story is necessary to kind of understand the whole and to kind of get a better sense of where Jason Statham's character is coming from. But at the same time, it does get a bit confusing, but not nearly as confusing as some of the timestamps in the film. You see, throughout the film, we get all these different markers that appear to try and let us know at what point in time the story is taking place. For instance, like 3 weeks ago or 5 months later, stuff like that. But they appear so frequently that it becomes kind of easy to get lost. I honestly contemplated at one point just taking out a pen and a paper to try and figure out what was going on. And while it does eventually just line up and kind of make sense, it still kind of just throws you off for a bit. Also, going back to what I said earlier, there were a bunch of characters that, you know, in my opinion, were severely underutilized. You know, there are so many great actors in this. Andy Garcia, Jeffrey Donovan, Eddie Marsan, Laz Alonso, even Josh Hartnett. Yes, the Josh Hartnett, who, you know, I don't even know where the hell he's been all these years, but he's in it, and he even gets to do his thing for a little while. But like all the other actors, it just never feels like enough. And I get it. This is essentially the Jason Statham show. He's the lead. This is his character's story. But why have so many talented people in this if you're just not gonna utilize them? Also, for a revenge thriller, I thought the climax was incredible. However, that moment of revenge that, you know, the whole film kind of leads up to didn't feel as satisfying as I thought it would. And it doesn't help that the film ends so abruptly either. Look, Guy Ritchie has made a pretty serviceable revenge thriller here. Does it get the job done? Sure. Is it revolutionary for the genre, though? Not in my opinion. But it still is good, and for the most part, it's entertaining. I would totally recommend people to check this film out, but I would caution them by telling them to go in with low expectations, because the last thing I would want anybody to feel coming away from this film is like they've been robbed. And for that, I'm going to give this film 3 stars.
I do bear a grudge.
Guys, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to view this video. It really does mean the world to me. And once again, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here, please make sure to hit that subscribe button as well for more new movie-related content weekly. Now, if you happen to see this movie, if you loved it, if you hated it, let me know what you thought about it down below in the comment section. I look forward to reading and responding to all of your comments, as always. But with that being said, that is pretty much all the time that I have for you guys today. As always, be on the lookout for more new content shortly. I have some very cool stuff I'm very excited to share with you in the coming days and weeks. But that's pretty much all I can say on that. So, if you excuse me, I should probably get back to work. Until next time, I'm Dempsey Pulot. Take care.